Well, Pakistan, which never saw any of its prime ministers complete the 5-year term, plunged into chaos as Imran Khan sidestepped. The deputy speaker disallowed vote on the no confidence motion brought by the opposition and in fact adjourned the parliament, citing foreign conspiracy and invoking Article 5. The president then went on to accept the proposal of Imran Khan, whose government was in minority, had no numbers as far as the National Assembly is concerned, to dissolve the assembly, and then the National Assembly was dissolved. Many in the opposition staged Dharna inside the assembly, but they soon rushed to the top court of the country seeking relief. The Supreme Court has not issued any stay orders so far, but has assured that it will first hear all the concerned parties. Now listen in to Imran Khan, who in fact saved himself from a massive embarrassment, and he says this is a surprise which has hit the opposition hard.
पाकिस्तान की नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने वाज़े तौर पे कह दिया कि पाकिस्तान की ये जो नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन थी, इसमें से बैरून मुल्क की इंटरफेरेंस थी। उसके बाद मिनट्स जारी किए गए उसके, उन मिनट्स के अंदर ये चीज कंफर्म की गई कि ये एक बाहर से प्लान बना था जिसमें इंटरफेयर किया गया था पाकिस्तान की इंटरनल पॉलिटिक्स में, और ये जो नो कॉन्फिडेंस थी इसकी बुनियाद बाहर थी।
Now let's listen into the opposition that calls today's developments, whether it's the adjournment of the parliament, whether it's the dissolution of the assembly, or the speaker not allowing vote on no confidence motion, as purely unconstitutional.
इमरान खान साहब जो है इस तरह की बातें करनी अब छोड़ दें। ये अब अपना मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं। मेरे ख्याल में इनका जाना भी इज्जत से नहीं लिखा। इज्जत बचाएं और कौम से माफ़ी मांगें और घर चलें।
It is illegal, totally illegal, and the court has sat down. हम देखते हैं कोर्ट क्या कहते हैं और किस तरह कोर्ट, अदरवाइज हम हर चीज़ के लिए थे। कोई इनके डराने भुसलाने में आए, अगर इतना शौक है तो इलेक्शन के लिए भी तैयार है।
Meanwhile, Imran Khan government asserts that the speaker's ruling cannot be challenged in the Supreme Court. They in fact have challenged the opposition to face fresh elections.
मुल्क कभी जो अपना पाकिस्तान के जो अवाम है, अगर आप एक सही सियासी जमात हैं तो आप क्यों इस खौफ का शिकार होंगे कि हमें जो है वो अवाम से डर लगता है। अगर आप इतने शेर के बच्चे हैं तो आप आए इलेक्शन लड़ें, हम आपको कह रहे हैं इलेक्शन लड़ें।
Moving on, breaking developments coming in from Pakistan. The opposition has slammed hit out at Imran Khan amid calls for fresh elections. Bilawal Bhutto has tweeted and he says that the coup, the attempt in fact to mount a coup on the opposition of Imran Khan, will not succeed. He says early elections was the opposition's demand, not Imran Khan's demand. He says no confidence electoral reforms, early free and fair elections is the long-stated goal of the opposition. Let's open this up. Let's go across to our guests. We have Anil Triguniyat, former ambassador, Sushant Sareen, strategic affairs expert, joins us on the broadcast. We have Naveed Chaudhary, spokesperson of the PTI, and Nadir Gabol, leader of PPP. Good evening to all of you. I first want to go across to our political guest, to Naveed Chaudhary first. Naveed Chaudhary, you've alleged that the entire opposition was hand in gloves with foreign powers, and you're saying that it was in the National Security Council that it was confirmed that there were foreign powers who were trying to destabilize your government. What about your allies who left your side? उनको भी खरीद लिया गया था क्या?
सबसे पहले तो आप I should not talk in English or should go with the preference.
नवीद साहब, थोड़ा नेटवर्क इशू मुझे लग रहा है, दोबारा कोशिश आप करें।
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि we should talk in English or I should go with English.
I'm sorry.
What's your preference here?
I'm sorry, your voice is cracking, sir. I'm not able to hear you. Let me fix that. Let us fix that line. I'll come back to you. I'm really sorry I can't hear you at this point of time. Let's go across to Mr. Gabol. Mr. Gabol, you of course are very well aware of the allegations that have been leveled against the entire opposition of being hand in gloves with foreign powers and attempting to destabilize the Imran Khan government and attempting to mount a coup on Imran Khan. And he also claims that you're scared of elections. If you always found his policies to be faulty and if you said that he as a ruler has failed, face elections.
It's not about elections. We are more than happy to let Imran Khan face us the elections because we want to win miserably. This fight is for the Constitution. We want to uphold the Constitution, and we want to make sure that civilian dictatorship or civilian martial law is not for the country. What Imran Khan has abrogated the Constitution of Pakistan, and because of that, he is now liable for strict punishment and even for treason proceedings, and could face severe punishment by the Supreme Court. And because the matter is sub judice right now, we are hoping that the Supreme Court will make a hasty, not a hasty, but a timely decision, so that this institutional mess that has been created by Imran Khan is immediately fixed. So this sends a very wrong message to the world, because right now Pakistan is already alienated in the West, especially because of the language Imran Khan has been using against America, which, by the way, is our biggest trade partner. Not about that we want to be a slave to America, but we have to face the fact America is our highest importer, which means that most of our majority of our import America. And since we're already facing economic hardship, we cannot simply accuse America of being an enemy. And similarly, Europe is also a major trade partner. What Imran Khan has been saying about our relationship with Europe is also very damaging to our foreign standing. And these are the things that we want to fix before we go to the next elections.
Okay, okay.
And if there are
Mr. Gabor, in that case, I want to ask you a follow-up question. Has Imran Khan single-handedly ruined the foreign policies of Pakistan, the economy of Pakistan? Was the situation much better before he became the Prime Minister? Inflation was under control?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that Pakistan is like Switzerland or France, but Pakistan's inflation was still manageable. It was not as high as it is now. It has gone into double figures. It never gone into double figures. It People's Party saw it. Pakistan was strictly government. Similarly, unemployment rate was poor as compared to now. Economic growth rate was higher. America was a close ally. Like already mentioned, most of our exports were going to America. So these are the things that Imran Khan has single-handedly damaged. He wakes up one morning with a brand new idea without taking anybody to consider it, goes flies to Russia, not realizing the sensitivity of the situation after Russia has already launched a strike in Ukraine. It is true that the battle between Ukraine and Russia is none of our concern, and this is something that Russia and Ukraine need to sort out. But in such a situation, a country which pretends or claims to be neutral cannot just go and visit one country, because this will obviously, undeniably, make the other country feel much worse. And Imran Khan has to pay for all the things that he's been doing for the past 3.5 years. And we were hoping that the parliament would have done that. But as you know, today he has...
Nadir Saab, we are trying to connect with Naveed Chaudhary. It will be important to know how he responds as well. Okay, I think he's with us. Mr. Naveed Chaudhary, are you with us? If you're with us, आरोप लगा रहे हैं गबोल साहब की 3 सालों में आपने फॉरेन पॉलिसीज को लेकर के बड़े-बड़े ब्लंडर किए, रशिया को लेकर के जो आपका स्टैंड है, आपकी आर्मी का स्टैंड है, या यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स को लेकर के जो इमरान खान ने कह दिया और जो बाजवा साहब ने कल या उसके 2 दिन पहले कहा था, वो एक दूसरे से बहुत जुदा है। इमरान खान साहब के गवर्नेंस में इन्फ्लेशन इतना बढ़ गया, इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस पाकिस्तान में बढ़ता जा रहा है, डेट बढ़ता जा रहा है। अगर आप फॉरेन पावर्स की बात करें तो चीन का भी तो इतना दखल रहता है, चीन का नाम क्यों नहीं लिया उन्होंने?
सबसे पहले तो आपका शुक्रिया कि आपने मुझे ऑनर लिया। अच्छा, ये मैं सबसे पहले ब्रीफ कर दूं, अभी जो बात हो रही है 3-3.5 साल में फॉरेन पॉलिसी की, तो लेट मी टेल यू, तो लास्ट 5 ईयर्स में जब नवाज शरीफ का टेन्योर था हमारा, तो वहाँ फॉरेन ऑफिसर तो नहीं था, ना फॉरेन मिनिस्टर था हमारा, ठीक है। तो जब खान साहब अपने इक़्तिदार में आए तो उन्होंने आते एक बड़ी एग्रेसिव फॉरेन पॉलिसी इंट्रोड्यूस कराई, और उनका शुरू से ये स्टांस रहा है कि हमने जितने भी नेबर्स हैं कंट्री, उनके साथ अपना दोस्ताना ताल्लुकात रखने, ताकि हम उनके साथ ट्रेड भी कर सकें, और एक बड़ा पीसफुल, जब पीस होगी तो तमाम मामला होंगे। तो इस वजह से हमने इंडिया के साथ भी फॉरेन हमारी की पॉलिसी हुई है वेरी फ्रेंडली। जब हमने सऊदी अरब, ईरान, चाइना एंड देन अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड, इसी तरह रशिया के साथ भी हमने कोशिश ये की है कि देखें जी, जब तक पीस को प्रेफरेंस नहीं देंगे वर्ल्ड के अंदर, अफवाहों को भी होती है कि भाई आपको लोग सीरियसली लेंगे। एक टेररिस्ट बिल्डिंग का आपका इमेज अगर पाकिस्तान का बिल्ड किया जाता था, तो अब तो वो एक ऐसा बिल्ड इमेज किया गया कि जहाँ बैठ के पाकिस्तान को सीरियसली लिया जाता है कि यार ये हमारे ऐसे दोस्त हैं जो हमारे मसाइल हल कर सकते हैं। अभी यूक्रेन के प्रेसिडेंट का हफ्ता पहले इमरान खान साहब से, तो उन्होंने ये रिक्वेस्ट की कि आप इस पे बैठ के हमारी मदद कीजिए और हमें सॉर्ट आउट कीजिए इस मसले में। तो हम तो इस तरह बात नहीं करेंगे। जो फॉरेन पॉलिसी पाकिस्तान के प्राइम मिनिस्टर की बिल्कुल ऑन बोर्ड थे, इसमें चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ भी रशिया के टूर ऑन बोर्ड थे और तमाम ब्रीफिंग हुई थी। और सारे मामला को इससे अलग रख के देखा जाए, जो करंटली सीनेरियो भी चल रहा है, इसके अंदर ओपनली हमें एक थ्रेट 7 मार्च को हमारे सफीर को दी गई और अब तो ओपन हो चुकी है ये बात कि किस मुल्क में दी थी, तो इसका हमें कोई पर्दा रखने की जरूरत नहीं है। वहाँ आपको पता है मिनट्स में मीटिंग होती है, रिटर्न थ्रेट कोई नहीं देता आपको। ये सफीर कहीं भी बैठते हैं।
तो आप कह रहे हैं कि फॉरेन पावर्स ने सारे ऑपोजिशन को खरीद लिया आपके देश में, आपके जो एलाइज थे।
मेरी बात कंप्लीट
नहीं, आप ही को पूछ रही हूँ मैं फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन। नहीं, आप ही को मैं फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन पूछ रही हूँ। एक तरफा डायलॉग तो नहीं चल सकता ना, दोनों तरफ से बातचीत होनी चाहिए। हाँ, तो मैं ये कह रही थी कि आपने जो फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी की बात कही, आप ये कह रहे हैं पूरा ऑपोजिशन बिकाऊ है। आपके जो अपने एलाइज थे जिनके भरोसे आपको शायद लग रहा था कि नंबर गेम में आप जीत जाएंगे, वो आपका साथ छोड़ के चले जाते हैं, वो भी क्या सारे फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी में इन्वॉल्व हैं?
इससे पहले भी लास्ट ईयर भी एक मूवमेंट चली थी वोट ऑफ नो कॉन्फिडेंस लाने की। तो उस वक्त खान साहब ने खुद कहा था कि आप कौन होते हैं, मैं देता हूं वोट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस अपनी पार्लियामेंट से, एंड ही गॉट 179 और 176 वोट। अब आ जाते हैं आज की करंट सिनेरियो के ऊपर। जो बायलैटरल आपके रिलेशनशिप्स होते हैं, आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रही हैं कि ये 1-to-1 होते हैं और हमें इसमें बड़ी अच्छी चाइना के साथ और इवन रशिया के साथ, इवन ईरान के साथ, जो वो कंट्रीज थी जिनके साथ रिलेशन बहुत पीछे जा रहे थे। और हमने आते हुए तमाम खान साहब ने अग्रेसिवली इसी अप्रोच में लिया कि हम इन सब के साथ बैठ के पीसफुली निगोशिएट करके अपनी कंट्री का जो बेनिफिट है उसके मुताबिक फॉरेन पॉलिसी बनाई जाती है, ना तो दूसरे मुल्क के बेनिफिट देख के बात बंदा करता है।
ठीक है, देखिए आरोप आपके ऊपर ये लग रहा है कि आपने अपने आप को एम्बैरेसमेंट से बचाने के लिए ये असेंबली को डिसॉल्व करवा दिया और आपको पता था कि आपके पास नंबर्स नहीं है, नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन को आप सामना करना नहीं चाहते थे।
मुझे आज के करंट जो सिनेरियो में बात करने दें, 1 मिनट दें, मुझे इसमें बात करनी है। आज जो कुछ असेंबली में हुआ वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल हुआ। आर्टिकल 6 से पहले आर्टिकल 5 अगर आपने सुना हो, पढ़ा हो, तो उसमें आर्टिकल 5 में है कि आपकी लॉयल्टी स्टेट के साथ होनी चाहिए। और स्टेट के साथ लॉयल्टी आपकी कब होगी? जब आप बिकाऊ माल होंगे तब होगी। जब अमेरिका से फंडिंग लेके आप फैसले करेंगे कि हमने इस पार्लियामेंट को गिराना है, आप पार्लियामेंट को अच्छे तरीके से गिराएं, डेमोक्रेटिक तरीके से गिराएं। आपने 22 बंदे हमारे खरीदे, ऑन द रिकॉर्ड है, आपने खरीदे, ट्रांजैक्शंस भी आएंगी, अभी सामने आएंगी सब आप ठीक है। और वो 22 बंदे आज ठीक हो गए, हफ्ते पहले तो
नादिर कबूल रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं, आप बहुत सीरियस एलिगेशंस लगा रहे हैं, आपको जवाब ले लेना चाहिए।
पीछे भाग रहे थे। मेरी बात कंप्लीट होने दें। आज 3-4 दिन में ऐसा क्या हुआ कि उनको खान के अंदर सारे ऐप नजर आना शुरू हो गए जी, पैसा बोलता है, तो पैसा चलता है,
पैसा बोलता है। अचानक ऑपोजिशन को लगा एक साथ आते हैं और नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन लाते हैं।
इंडिया एक ऐसी पावर बनी है, डेमोक्रेसी है वहाँ। आज अगर पैसे लेके मोदी को गिराने की वहाँ लोकसभा में या उपसभा में ये बात हो रही हो, तो आप कैसे इसको फेस करेंगे?
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है सुन के कि इंडिया की डेमोक्रेसी की आप तारीफ कर रहे हैं। इमरान खान भी इंडिया की इंडिपेंडेंट फॉरेन पॉलिसी की तारीफ कर रहे हैं, उनको इंडिया की इंडिपेंडेंट फॉरेन पॉलिसी याद आ रही है। लेकिन जवाब ले लेते हैं। नादिर प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड।
नहीं, मुझे याद नहीं आ रही। हमारे अंदर ये हौसला है, हमारे अंदर ये दिल गुर्दा है कि हम अपने दुश्मन की भी तारीफ करते हैं। माजरत के साथ आपको तुम्हारे अच्छे कामों में भी बढ़ाएंगे।
चलिए, कल तक इमरान खान कह रहे थे कि मैंने तो हमेशा दोस्ती का हाथ आगे बढ़ाया, आप आज हमको दुश्मन भी कहने को तैयार हो गए। लेट्स टेक अ रिस्पांस फ्रॉम नादिर।
Well, my colleague from PTI, and it's funny that you're not in touch with what's been going on for the past 2.5 years. Chairman Bilawal at least 2019 has been Shahbaz Sharif or any other opposition party, they were considering giving us resignations from the assembly. It was Pakistan People's Party who was saying, no, we don't need to resign. We can go through a constitutional procedure of no confidence, and that's what we eventually did, but we knew that we had the numbers. How did we get the numbers? These guys are claiming that we spent money, which is absolutely false. We got the numbers because for the past 3.5 years, 25 to 35 MNAs of PTI could not serve their own constituency and were not in a position to face their own constituents. Hence, they wanted to vacate or desert their own party. That was one major boost. Secondly, maybe the PTI fellow that we have today doesn't know that PTI was never a simple majority government. They needed allies. Who are the allies? And them, Balochistan Awami Party, DA, and some independent MNAs as well. And obviously, Just like the PTI MNAs who deserted ship, these allies also have to face a constitution.
Okay, but whose claim holds ground? I think that the Supreme Court will decide now that the ball is in the apex court. Sushant Sareen, we have discussed what this means for India, what it means for Pakistan. What I want to understand from you is, what does this really mean for the Pakistani army, the biggest stakeholder, which tried this hybrid model of selecting the head of the country, calling the shots from behind the scenes, not directly taking charge of the country, taking over the reins of the country, but by propping up this individual with whom they had this fallout in public?
I think the Pakistan army has got its comeuppance. The fact that, they picked up this character, and everybody who knew anything about the man knew what kind of a narcissist he was. And the fact that he was utterly clueless how to run a country. I've often said this and I'll say it again. He thought that the world is an extension of the cricket ground, which clearly it is not. Now, when you foisted a man like him, a man whose ego got the better of him, and who's willing to set the house on fire simply so that he can save some of his self-respect and manufacture a controversy. This whole conspiracy which is being hatched has been a completely fabricated, manufactured. And Ambassador Trigunayat is setting out here, these are conversations diplomats have on a daily basis in the countries they are, or with are based in Delhi. They interact with the headquarters in Delhi, with the MEA. These are normal conversations which happen where diplomats tell the other side what they think of a particular government, and that it will be difficult for them to get along. To conjure up a conspiracy after that and then subvert the constitution. Actually, what has happened today, Swati, is a complete subversion of the constitution. It is a complete travesty what has happened. And clearly, there is absolutely no grounds whatsoever. Now, the gentleman out here from PTI, like all PTI guys who live in a world of alternate reality, has suddenly conjured up this Article 5. Why, even if supposing, number one, he's again dissembling when he says that, money was exchanging hands. The fact of the matter is that today in the National Assembly of Pakistan, the opposition, the people who were supporting the no confidence motion, had about 177 or 178 members. All the allies had more or less come onto the side of the opposition, including the PMLQ. So you didn't even need the members who the gentleman is alleging money was paid. And in fact, no money was paid. There is no evidence of it. And yet they are coming out with this. But the important thing, after having subverted the constitution, having played a fiddle with a constitutional provision, and gone and dissolved the house, Imran Khan already had an honorable way out, but he chose dishonor over honor. He chose dishonor by subverting the constitution. Otherwise, he could have resigned when he saw the writing on the wall that the numbers had turned against him. Now, it's gone to the courts. But frankly, anybody who has any idea of how the Pakistani courts operate does not have any confidence that the courts will really do any justice in this matter. And chances are that the courts will say that, okay, elections have been called, you might as well go ahead with this election, which is precisely the calculation of these guys. Right. That, we have forced election, we have said Imran. But frankly, Swati, let me just say one more thing. My last dollar, I don't have any, but I can buy and bet it, that there is no way that Imran Khan is coming back to power. Okay. If he manages to get 24 seats in the next elections, he'll be a lucky man. And my advice to Mr. Chaudhary would be out here, whatever his name is, that he should switch sides. I think he has switched parties earlier as well. He might as well switch back. Because frankly speaking, I don't see a hope in hell for Mr. Khan, simply because nobody will let him win the next election, because he has destroyed Pakistan's most important diplomatic relationships simply for his ego. So I really don't see much of a political future for this man right now. They can crow over what they have done right now. They can self-congratulate themselves that they pulled a fast one.
The fact that he was trying to position himself as a martyr is not going to work out in elections. I want to bring in Mr. Trigunayat. Mr. Trigunayat, India believes in diplomacy, in dialogue, as long as the issues remain bilateral, as long as there's no third-party intervention, as long as Pakistan does not go crying to other nations to intervene, interfere in issues that are bilateral. But, will our policies, which now, of course, have been hailed by Mr. Imran Khan as well, he's appreciating the independent foreign policy of India, will it continue to be principle-driven? Or is India also watching very closely what's happening in Pakistan and the results that the elections might throw up?
Well, obviously, I mean, as a close neighbor, we obviously watch what is happening there, and that's what we are discussing on your channel as well. So there is a tremendous interest in what happens in Pakistan. And India has never wanted instability in Pakistan. Actually, a stable and economically prosperous Pakistan is, of course, is in India's interest. And that's how we have always looked at it. But at the same time, relationship is with the government. If Imran Khan was there, but our problem has been a principled stand as far as Pakistan is concerned and the way we are seeing the relationship going. And that has been that none of the governments in Pakistan has been able to abdicate its policy of fomenting terror against India. I mean, that's been the only thing. And there has been adequate and sufficient evidence, one after the other. Efforts have been made by India. So I see that as it does not matter, frankly, who is the prime minister of the country. The problem in the country is that the policy of the country, foreign policy, I would say, internal, of course, is carried on by the army itself. Now, army may not be directly openly there, but it has been proxy. It runs. Today, Mr. Bajwa spoke yesterday, I think, at the Islamic Security, Pakistan Security Dialogue in Islamabad. He was talking about improving relationships with India. Nothing prevents you from taking action against those elements. I mean, the most important concern of India, if you can address that, we have no problem. Of course, we have had a ceasefire now for 2 years, which has held out. We are also, exchanging some documents, people, prisoners, and all that kind of things, and religious people also traveling. So that's not the problem. So I don't see any great change in that case, because irrespective of the fact, whichever way you look at it,
right?
Even in this particular scenario, when the army decided that it is no longer going to support Imran Khan, it was time for him to go. And then he got this handle, which he said it is his trump card. Now, this kind of trump cards one can find out every day, frankly, in the diplomatic discourse. It happens. Every government tries to look at it. What happens if this guy goes? And if he continues, he's going to do that. So this is always the case.
Absolutely. In fact, rulers in Pakistan have proven it time and again that if you want to enjoy the confidence and support of the army, then they need to take an aggressive stand when it comes to India, an anti-India stand. So one cannot expect drastic changes. Thank you very much, Sushant Sareen, Mr. Trigunyat and Mr. Gabol for joining us on the broadcast. Naveed Chaudhary will continue to be with us. Now, Mr. Trigunyat believes that, of course, India does not want an unstable neighbor. Any political instability in Pakistan may or may not have an impact on India. And that's what experts really are watching out. With political instability hitting Pakistan, it now remains to be seen how the turmoil will impact India. While the army has denied any role in the political crisis so far, Chief of the Army Staff said that Pakistan believes in dialogue and diplomacy to resolve all outstanding issues, including the Kashmir issue. Let's open this up. Let's go across to our guests to try and understand the impact that this may or may not, this constitutional crisis, political crisis may or may not have on India. We have with us Maruf Raza, Group Consulting Editor of the Times Network. Major General Dhruv Katoch is also joining us on the broadcast. Naveed Chaudhary continues to be with us. We're also joined by Kamar Chima. Let's go across to Mr. Kamar Chima first. Mr. Kamar Chima, Imran Khan now, of course, is saying that, I always extended a hand of friendship towards India. I never wanted bad relations with India. But then we saw him criticizing India, alleging human rights violation, giving lectures on violation of rights of the minorities, taking bilateral issues to a third party, asking for their interference, their intervention. But today, Mr. Imran Khan all of a sudden has realized that India has this independent foreign policy and maybe Pakistan should have had that. Maybe he should have been allowed to have that stand.
Well, I think what Prime Minister Imran Khan was doing, that he's just taking desperate attempts that how you have to be surviving, and he was signaling to the military and signaling to the Western governments, and he was signaling to his own people. So in the last few weeks, since there is no confidence motion has come, so Imran Khan has come up with so much, we have had to see so much faces of Imran Khan at the same time. When he's turned out to be a Muslim he's a nationalist, he's pro-army, he's signaling to the military, he's signaling to the West, and he was doing so much for his survival. So that is why he was giving so much, he was praising Indian foreign policy. At the same time, when it comes to the matter of the Kashmir and all that, then obviously he is saying that India is a violator, RSS and BJP ideology and all that theories. So, but I think referring to Indian foreign policy, which is obviously a fact that India remained non-aligned and neutral over the period of a lot of time, and even right now, when the pressurized and all that presence of the Quad, India remained neutral. So he was signaling to someone, and for that matter, the signaling didn't work at all because he couldn't get the attention of the concerned quarters, where he's believed or is known as he's a selected, or he couldn't convince his selectors, as the opposition says in Pakistan.
Right, I want to bring in Maruf Raza on that point of Imran Khan now praising the Indian foreign policy being independent. It really has never helped any Pakistani Prime Minister, Pakistani ruler to take a pro-India stand.
Sorry, मैं इस तरह कंटिन्यू नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि मेरे पास अभी
Maruf Raza, can you hear me?
Well, Swati, let me... yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, I want to take on further from what Mr. Chima has said. It was something that he had said in your earlier debate also, but I couldn't really get back in. I kind of go along with him on certain issues that, you see, Imran Khan has left a lot of people confused as to what he's all about. We all know his colorful past. He suddenly became a born-again Muslim. Then he never had the kind of numbers even when the army brought him in. And that continues to perplex me, that why the numbers issue is now being debated, because he was brought in also by the army and kind of propped up when he was hardly a heavyweight political contender in the sense that political contenders are in India and Pakistan. But having said that, let me also bring in another aspect. Mr. Chima had referred in his earlier discourse that, Imran Khan doesn't engage with opposition leaders, but, I have read on and off a few things about him. And when he was, in his younger days, an eminent cricketer, I believe he did not even bother to play first-class cricket within Pakistan because he didn't think it was worth his while. Notwithstanding that, they still made him captain of the Pakistani cricket team, and then eventually, of course, he led them to World Cup victory. So he kind of is a man who goes by his own agenda up to a point, and especially when he has to be required to be engaging with so-called lesser mortals, he gives them a short shrift. That is what has cost him lots of admirers and friends in the political fray. Now, when you talk about his support for Indian foreign policy, I mean, anybody who's half educated would know that India has always had an independent foreign policy. But in Pakistan, foreign policy is reduced to a few things. One is Kashmir hamara hai, leke rakhenge. Two is, America was important strategically, but America should always be seen as the big devil. The third is the role of China, which quietly has been approved by many Pakistanis, and now China is all over the place in Pakistan. And there I brought up this point earlier, that this whole issue about treason when engaging with America, what about everybody in Pakistan and the army in particular, which is hand in glove with China? Isn't that an act of treason? Or are you a province of China? The other aspect is that Pakistan, Imran Khan and their foreign policy, actually at the end of the day, I'll tell you, this is my belief. I may be sort of sticking my neck out too much. But one aspect is, if you in India wish to really move forward with Pakistan and have deliverables delivered, then you have to engage with the Pakistan army. You know, we make a central mistake of assuming because we are a democracy,
right,
because we have civilian rule, because our army has stayed back out of politics, the same story should apply in Pakistan. And when that day comes,
that's a very
then
important and interesting point that you're making. नवीश चौधरी साहब, इससे पहले कमर चीमा भी कह रहे थे कि अपने आप को बहुत अलग अलग शेड्स में और अलग अलग तरीके से प्रोजेक्ट करने की कोशिश इमरान खान ने की, और हमारे बाकी के एक्सपर्ट्स भी बिलीव करते हैं कि इमरान खान क्या अपने आप को प्रोजेक्ट करना चाह रहे थे, इसको लेकर के वो कंफ्यूज थे। आप फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी की इतनी बात करते हैं, चीन के साथ जो आपका रिश्ता या चीन की जितनी दखलंदाजी चलती है उसका जिक्र क्यों नहीं करते?
मैं रिस्पॉन्ड करूंगा इस बात को। आप ठीक कह रही हैं और ये भी ठीक कह रहे थे, मेरे पार्टनर या बात कर रहे हैं। बिल्कुल, खान साहब की पर्सनैलिटी शुरू से अलग रही है एंड ही हैज बीन वेरी अनप्रेडिक्टेबल थ्रू आउट हिज कैरियर। स्टार्टिंग में हम क्रिकेट आप करें, उनको कहा जाता था यार ये कभी जिंदगी में फास्ट बॉलर बन नहीं सकता। ही प्रूव्ड ऑल द रॉन्ग एंड देन इट कम्स टू वर्ल्ड कप एंड फाइनली जब वर्ल्ड कप वो जीते हैं तब भी लोग कहते थे यार ये कभी नहीं जीत सकते। फिर जब आप शौक खाना बनाने की बात है तब भी लोग मजाक उड़ाते थे कि ये कैसे यार इतना चंदा जमा करेगा, ये कैसे लोगों के पास जाएगा, कैसे खड़ा करेगा ये इतना बड़ा हॉस्पिटल कैंसर का जो फ्री इलाज करता है। उसने वो लोगों को वहां भी गलत साबित किया। फिर जब ये सियासत में आए तो लोग कहते थे यार ये कैसे प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनेगा, ये तो एक चीज का मालिक है सिर्फ। उसके बाद लोगों को उसने फिर भी गलत साबित किया और आज वो पाकिस्तान का प्राइम मिनिस्टर है। बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं ये कि खान की जो अपनी persona है, अपना जो उसकी पर्सनैलिटी है, टोटली डिफरेंट है एंड ही हैज प्रूव्ड कि विद ऑल द नेगेटिविटी यू आर सेइंग वो फिर भी पाकिस्तान का प्राइम मिनिस्टर बना। वो
चलिए, आपने उनकी पर्सनालिटी की इतनी तारीफ कर दी। आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, एक वजीर आजम होने के तौर पर
चाइना के साथ
पाकिस्तान के लोगों के मसाइलों को कितना हल उन्होंने किया? क्योंकि आज की तारीख में ऑपोजिशन एक साथ, अब उसको आप साजिश कहें, फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी कहें, या ऑपोजिशन एक साथ आकर के कह रहा है कि पाकिस्तान का इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस और ज्यादा बढ़ा है, इन्फ्लेशन वहां बढ़ गया है, फॉरेन पॉलिसी ठप पड़ रही है, इंटरनेशनल डेट जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कर्ज है वो बढ़ता जा रहा है।
कंट्रीज टू कंट्रीज आपकी ऐसी डिप्लोमेटिकली मूवमेंट होती रहती है। मेरे ख्याल से कोई भी कंट्री जो इंडिपेंडेंट फ्रीडम फ्री कंट्री है वो कभी भी इस तरह की जो है उसकी नेगोशिएशन नहीं होती। किसी भी एम्बेसडर सफीर को बैठा के ये नहीं कहा जाता कि अगर तुमने ये ना किया तो हम ये कर देंगे।
अच्छा, मुझे एक बात बताइए, गलती से उस दिन यूएस का नाम ले लिया, यूएस के एक अधिकारी को आप लोगों ने समन कर लिया। बाजवा साहब कहते हैं कि बाजवा साहब यूएस के साथ अच्छे रिश्तों की बात करते हैं।
बिठा के
आप बाजवा साहब अच्छे रिश्तों की बात करते हैं यूएस के साथ। उस दिन गलती से यूएस का जिक्र इमरान खान ने कर दिया फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी की बात करते हुए, और उसके बाद यूएस के एक अधिकारी को समन भी किया गया। तो ये फॉरेन पावर्स, ये फॉरेन कंस्पिरेसी, ये बाकी तमाम देश पाकिस्तान को लेकर के क्यों इतनी साजिशें रचेंगे?
देखिए मेरी बात सुने, पाकिस्तान की आप जो करंट पोजीशन है उसको अंडरस्टैंड करें। अमेरिका को बहुत बड़ा लगा जब खान का एब्सोल्युटली नॉट। अफगानिस्तान के बारे में जब अड्डे देने की बात आई तो खान ने कहा वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू टॉलरेट दिस एनीमोर। ये पास्ट में जो आप लोगों ने किया और हमारी जानें यहाँ गई, हमारे पाकिस्तानी यहाँ शहीद हुए, हमारे जिन लोगों का कुछ लेन देन नहीं है, मजलूम लोग यहाँ शहीद हुए। आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टॉलरेट दिस ड्रोन अटैक and I'm not going to give you any kind of support in this regard.
तो फिर यूक्रेन में जो मजलूम मारे जा रहे हैं उनके बारे में क्या ख्याल है?
वो अमेरिका कैसे बर्दाश्त करे?
नहीं, तो यूक्रेन में जो इनोसेंट लोग मारे गए उनके बारे में क्यों नहीं सोचा गया? और कमर चीमा आपकी बात से अग्री नहीं कर रहे हैं चौधरी साहब, वो भी पाकिस्तान के ही बाशिंदे हैं, उनका भी सुन लेते हैं जरा क्या तर्क है। कमर चीमा।
Well, I think as far as this theory is concerned, Imran Khan isn't basically serving to the nation on these ideas. If you will call that we laid the lives and we have done all for the West. I think Imran Khan is the master of the mind games. He creates conspiracy theories. He deliberately does it and people buy it. The problem with the Pakistani society at large is, or in any society at large is, everyone just cannot process the information. So whatever the information which is being divulged by the PM and his political party PTI, people just buy those conspiracy theories without even just checking that whether he's saying right or wrong. So Imran Khan is a master of the mind game, master of the conspiracy theories. Look, for example, as far as this, absolutely not. The DGISI in a press briefing with the journalists, clearly said that the Americans never asked for the airports in Pakistan. At the same time, the National Security Advisor clearly said at the media that the Americans never asked for any kind of support from Pakistan as far as his air bases are concerned. So Imran Khan cooked up this entire story. He gave an interview to the Western media house and he said that, and that was all hypothetical question, that will you give air bases if the Americans ask? He said absolutely not. So that is where the entire story was cooked up, that Imran Khan said absolutely not to the Americans. It was a hypothetical question to which Imran Khan responded. And then Imran Khan felt that there is a massive response coming from the people, that people like this saying no to the West.
Okay, you're saying Imran Khan is cooking up these stories of conspiracies? All right, you're saying he's cooking up these stories of conspiracies. I want to bring in Major General Dhruv Katoch as well, because a lot is being said and discussed from the Indian point of view as well. Do you think this political instability in Pakistan will soon reach the borders where we'll see an escalation of the situation? Because India's foreign policy does not change according to who the Prime Minister of Pakistan is. Our policy is very clear. We don't want talks and terrorism to go together.
Thank you, Swati. Now, I'll give you my views. You know, the first point I want to make out is, as far as India is concerned, what happens in Pakistan is totally irrelevant. In fact, Pakistan is totally irrelevant to India. I think let us make that very clear. So whatever happens in Pakistan is irrelevant. We have no concerns. So whether they have instability or whether they don't have instability, I don't think it will matter to India. Absolutely. That is one. Number two, I think, a statement was made earlier that a stable and economic Pakistan is to India's interest. Now, I don't know where people get such ideas from. It is absurd. In any time Pakistan is stable and economically prosperous, they will fight India. They have a jihadi mindset, and I don't think we can get rid of that jihadi mindset. So let us be realistic. Pakistan is an enemy state. It will remain an enemy state, and we should deal with them as an enemy state, period. Thirdly, I want to talk about Imran Khan per se. Now, Imran Khan is not about Pakistan. Imran Khan is about Imran Khan. Even the one singular achievement of this person's life is winning that, winning a World Cup cricket. He still talks about that, But when he won that World Cup, I heard that interview, and all that Imran Khan said at that time was, I have won the cup. The team was irrelevant. The whole team which was there, which fought for him, that was irrelevant. It was Imran Khan. And today, what has Imran Khan done? I think single-handedly, he has destroyed the last vestiges of democracy that is prevailing in Pakistan. And I will tell you why. You see, the very fact that he has disregarded a vote of confidence. What is the vote of confidence? That is the time when people use parliament to say, we support you or we don't support you. And now he's come on to some ridiculous theory to say that, no, I will not accept this because all those people are traitors. I think this has set one of the worst precedents in Pakistan's democratic history. Not that they have got much to be proud of in their democracy, but whatever little bit they had, I think now they have reached the depths. Because any future Pakistani Prime Minister will now say, if he wants to avoid anything, listen, we will disregard the views of the opposition because they have been paid by foreign powers. Now, that is a very, very dangerous precedent. And I don't think any person in their right mind should support it. The last point, as far as instability on India's borders. Now, listen, as far as the Pakistan military and every single Pakistani establishment, political establishment, including this one, is concerned, they have tried to promote instability in India, regardless of what India does. Now, the very fact that they have not been able to do it over the last few years is because of a very strong counter response which has come from India and a very strong counterinsurgency and a counter-terrorism grid which actually prevails. So, both these factors combined together have inhibited Pakistan. So it is not anything from the goodness of anybody's heart, etc., etc. Okay. The point is, if they do it, there will be a response, and that response is going to be tremendous. And I think that deterrence is going to work.
Okay.
Swati.
Okay, I want to bring in Maruf Raza. People close to Imran Khan have, in fact, come out with a statement that he has sacrificed Pakistan's interest for his own selfish motives and selfish goals. But Is there really here a lesson for the Pakistani army, Maruf Raza, according to you, that in fact tried ruling the country, failed miserably, then tried this hybrid model of selecting the ruler of the country and calling the shots from behind the scenes, that has also not worked out in their favor, with Imran Khan taking a completely different stand on Russia, on the United States? What is in store for the Pakistani army, or will they continue their experiments and this chaos, this constitutional crisis will continue in Pakistan, and we don't know whether Pakistan will ever see a prime minister who gets to complete a 5-year term?
Well, there are a lot of questions in that question of yours, but let me sort of unravel it. The first thing is, the Pakistan army has a permanent vested interest in Pakistan's economy. National security, of course, is the nominal alibi of everybody in Pakistan. But, I mean, you go through writings on the Pakistan army's business and economic interests, and you'll find out that apart from being the largest landholder in Pakistan, with 43% of the country's land being under their control, apart from being the biggest business entity in Pakistan, Fauji Foundation, Shaheen Foundation, and many others, and apart from being engaged with both foreign military purchases and the military industrial complex within Pakistan, the Pakistan army is too powerful an entity economically. And therefore, to control their business interests, what Aisa Siddiqa in a book calls milbus, is what gets them to get involved with politics. They started off in the 40s and earlier 50s, initially being the key engager with the United States and others for arms deals, because the politicians were indifferent to Pakistan's security at that time. They were all trying to find their feet. And over a period of time, it's become vested and institutionalized. Now, where does the Pakistan army go from here? You know, everything in Pakistan is easy to understand if you have a sense of Pakistan's history. In Pakistan's history, there have been many who were earlier proteges of the army and then developed wings of their own, and then got sidelined, eliminated, or disposed of. Zulfikar Bhutto was Ayub Khan's foreign minister. Nawaz Sharif was Ziaul Haq's finance minister. And even Imran Khan, as everyone says, was selected by the army, and perhaps rightly so. So the fact is, when they develop wings of their own, they get sidelined or they get disposed of. It is often joked, if you become Prime Minister of Pakistan, you should be prepared to be either hanged or sent out of the country. You'll be lucky if you get back to leading a normal life. Unfortunately, that is the equation that continues to prevail. Absolutely. Though I don't think Mr. Khan will either be hanged or sent off out of the country, because he's got enough other issues and interests. What I have never been able to understand, that if he entered the country with an agenda to clean up politics and to enter into creating greater accountability in public life, he hasn't shown any inclination to do that over the last 3.5 years.
Absolutely.
And this whole issue about him suddenly becoming a foreign policy mandarin has taken even the army by surprise. Ki bhai ki ho gaya? So the problem was that Imran Khan suddenly decided that he is now entrenched enough in world politics. Remember, his agenda to take the Kashmir issue to all world capitals got only a limited response.
Right. The moment maybe he thought that he is independent enough to take those decisions, the army pulled out the support that it gave him when he was selected by them. That's an assessment that many, in fact, are making at this point of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. That's all the time I have. But unfortunately, I believe, you know, in this political turmoil and in this game of one-upmanship that has been going on in Pakistan, and as the saga continues, the biggest loser is the Awam of Pakistan, that never unfortunately got to see a leader completing 5-year term or giving them a good governance and keeping the promises that they make while asking for that mandate from the people of Pakistan. So it's them who truly these leaders have betrayed. A quick break on the broadcast. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us with your perspectives.